Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to the final Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents of the 2023-24 season. And we're ending as we ended last season. You wait 150 years plus for Manchester FA Cup final and then two come along in consecutive years. Let me firstly introduce you to our Manchester United correspondent, Gary Robinson. How are you, Gary?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. Thank you, mate. And our
Good.
Manchester City correspondent, Jonny Pringle. How are you, Johnny?
Yeah, good. Thank you, James. Thanks for having me on again.
Good stuff. I thought what I'd do is I'd introduce Gary first as if they're the home team to make him feel like he's got more of a chance. How much of a chance do you feel like you've got tomorrow, Gary?
Slim to none, I would say. I can't see it. City have ended the season really well, even by their standards, haven't they? And United, two wins at the end for United, but pretty average end to the season. So don't really know what the injury situation is on quite a lot of these players either. So I'd be surprised if they can get anything out of it tomorrow, but you never know.
No, you do. Never know. Johnny, emotionally, this must feel very different to this time last year. We did this pod a year ago, and I know there was mass nerves about losing the first Manchester Cup final from your perspective. Does it feel completely different this time?
Doesn't feel completely different. I think it does feel different, though. Yeah, with it being the first one last year, and obviously the treble on the line, um, it did feel big. It's definitely more nervous last year because the thought of blowing the treble, especially to United, would be something that they would never let us forget about. So, yeah, I was definitely more nervous last year, but inevitably it is United in a cup final again. So it's not nice this year either.
No, I've been through some emotions recently that weren't very nice. Gary, we spoke this time last year about City equaling your treble. Fast forward a year, how does that sink in now? Has it changed for United fans, the perception on what you achieved in '99 in any way?
No, I don't think so. I think um, you're still the first to do it, and no matter what record anyone sets it at anything, someone's always liable to repeat it, aren't they? So yeah, it's just one of them. It doesn't bother me that much. If someone went unbeaten next season, would them Arsenal fans of 2004 feel any different? They probably their memories wouldn't be changed, would they? So yeah, not too concerned.
No, fair. And Johnny, we must say congratulations on winning a historical fourth consecutive Premier League title, which has obviously not been done before. Has that ever been done in top division history in England? Four titles in a row, never been done. Does this
No,
make you? Does this make you the greatest team in English football history, Johnny?
I think so. I'm biased, but yeah, I think so. I think we've achieved things that other teams haven't. Like you say, we've won four in a row. We've won a treble. We were the first team to do 100 points, six titles in 7 seasons, the potential of the first ever back-to-back double as well. Yeah, I would argue it's the greatest era of any English side. Yeah.
Gary, response to that because your club's had some great eras, obviously, specifically, obviously through the '90s was so dominant.
yeah, but that even that United team never won 6 in 7. A lot of cup wins in there in this little run as well, isn't there? Even if you want to throw the League Cups in and the FA Cups that they've won, and like I say, maybe underachieved in the Champions League, but I think every great English team, certainly in the Premier League era, has probably underachieved in the Champions League, haven't they? United certainly did. That Mourinho Chelsea did. The Invincibles did. So you can maybe argue this City team's underachieved in Europe, but yeah, I think you can't knock four in a row, can you? You can't knock 6 in 7 in the cup wins, but um, there's obviously the massive caveat hanging over it that still needs resolving at some point in the next year. But in terms of a footballing spell of dominance as we're judging it now, before any new judgments are passed down, and we've all seen the evidence, and we can all make our own minds up on that. But as it stands now, I think Johnny's right. I think it is the greatest spell of as we go, because you can't argue four in a row, can you? And especially when it's got a Champions League in the middle of it and another final, and like I say, there's a few League Cups and FA Cups in there. So, yeah, I think it is.
Do you think that being the fourth title was the big motivation for this season, Johnny? After essentially, once you win the treble, you basically complete football. And I know you won the Club World Cup this year as well. But does that feel like it was okay, this has never been done by anyone. This is something that can be used as a motivation for this season?
Yeah, definitely. In the players' boot room at the training ground, they put up some text saying no team has ever won the Premier League 4 years in a row yet. And I think that was the big motivation. I think it was the big motivation for the fans. I think us as fans discussed it a lot this season, said, would you rather win 4th Premier League or back-to-back Champions League? And we all said 4 Premier Leagues in a row, because that has never been done before.
Yeah. So what's next? What's the motivation for next year?
5. No one's ever done that.
Just take the 4 off and put a 5 there instead.
Yeah. You are right, though. Pep's talked about it, though, because he did say that 4 in a row was a big motivation. And he talks about it every year. He says that he needs to see the hunger from the players. I think that's what keeps him coming back. It's what makes him such a genius as well, is that he is able to keep the players motivated. He always says that the day the players stop responding to him is the day he'll leave. So hopefully the players will find the hunger from somewhere, maybe about winning the Champions League back. Like I say, as soon as City get stuck into title race mode, they do really switch on. So, yeah, hopefully we'll find something.
Have you allowed yourself to think far ahead to next season yet? Because this time now feels a little bit different to this time last year. I think this time last year we were looking at next season thinking the only thing that will stop City is their own motivation. In fairness, Arsenal over the last 4 months have shown themselves to be a really powerful and strong opponent like Liverpool were for you. So it does feel like they'll really go with you again next year, whereas we weren't quite sure that would happen this time last year. And we've also spoken in the past about how Liverpool motivated you and kept pushing you to go, go, go.
Yeah.
Arsenal, presumably in your mind, are going to do that now.
Yeah, they remind me of when Liverpool pushed us all the way in the 18-19 season. And then Liverpool continued that form into the next season, and our mentality dropped off a bit, and they just absolutely blew us away. We have to be really careful that doesn't happen next year, because I'm pretty sure Arsenal will carry on that form into next season, and we need to match them stride for stride. I'd hope that a few years on from that 1920 season, we'll learn from that. We are better. I think we showed this year that the mentality didn't drop off. I don't think we were as good as we were last year, but we obviously kept ourselves up there like you have to, and then, yeah, turned it on when it mattered.
So you would agree with that? Because I've said that point as well. You don't feel as strong to me now as you did this time last year.
No.
Can you put your finger on why?
I think the squad was weaker. I think we talked about it last time. Like I said, I don't think players like, say, Doku and Kovacic are as good as, say, Mahrez or Gundogan were. I think we spent a lot of time embedding players like Vardiol, Nunes, like I say, Kovacic, Doku into the team. Obviously, we've had De Bruyne out injured, Haaland out injured. But then, to be fair, like I said, once we've got them all back, and players like Doku, Kovacic, Vardiol have started to get embedded in the team, we have looked very good, and we have finally been able to reach near the levels of last season.
Gary, do you agree with the sentiment? Arsenal will push them right close again next year?
Oh, I think they'll push them close, but they won't beat City. City will win the league next year as well. But I think Arsenal will push them close again. Yeah, they're a proper team, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't mind if they finish 2 points short of you forever, Johnny, to be totally honest. How does this compare to the other titles, though? I mean, you spoke when we spoke prior to this season starting, you were a little bit questionable, I think, in your own motivation as a fan, which is why we'd ask questions of the team, just because there was so much on that Champions League for so long, and then to do it and do the treble at the same time, is anything going to top it, basically? How has this felt to you in comparison to other title victories?
Yeah, good, really good. I constantly think about this. Is like, what was my favourite title? I mean, the first one under Guardiola with 100 points was obviously amazing. Winning the one as part of the treble was obviously amazing as well. But I think throughout the season, it maybe didn't feel like it meant as much. But then certainly as we got to like the end of the season, you realise yeah, 4 in a row is in touching distance. We're bang in the middle of a title race again where you can't slip up. You just started to get that real sort of like nerves and feeling back that you get in a title race. And it ended up being, yeah, really good, like few weeks. And I went to Tottenham, which was an amazing day. And then Sunday was amazing, obviously in the sun, Foden getting us going after a minute. Yeah, it still feels just as good as the others.
I have to ask, when Heung-min Son went through 1-on-1, how brown were your trousers?
Haha, very.
Because he's hurt you so many times as well. I mean, people forget that.
I was able to sort of see him go through. This was from the away end, so I couldn't really tell what had happened with Akanji. Saw him go through and basically had the time to process what was happening and who it was. And in that split second, I'd sort of made my peace that we'd blown it because I was like, he's not missing this. And then when Ortega does save it, the away end celebrated it like a goal. And instantly my mentality changed to, well, if he's missing that today, it really is our day.
Hated.
If there's ever a time Son's going to miss a 1v1 against City, then it had to be today.
Yeah, I can't say I thought we'd miss Saban when he went through because it certainly, in terms of his finishing, is an extraordinary forward. We have to mention the 115, Johnny. I think everybody knows what that relates to. What's the feeling now amongst City fans? Because it does feel like the judgment on this is getting closer. There's been speculation of perhaps a hearing in the autumn period and then perhaps a decision maybe next summer. What's the feeling amongst City fans now? Is it sick of talking about it, or I mean, do you want it like resolved? What's the feeling?
I think we are sick of talking about it. I think we've sort of accepted what other fans think of us. We know that we're just not going to get any credit for anything we do. If you go online and you look in replies to any sort of like credit being given to City, it's just 115, 115. I think for that case, we do want it resolved because we do want to obviously, hopefully prove that everything was legitimate. But I think I was pleased that Gary sort of raised the point before. And I think the most disappointing thing is, regardless of what has happened off the pitch, there is still an incredible sporting achievement that has happened with simply just a collection of human beings. And some people just can't see past that because of their own jealousy or
Agendas quite a lot as well.
They can't contemplate about how something this great could have been achieved without cheating. When my belief is that simply we've got the greatest manager that's ever existed, who's put together an incredible bunch of players under a club that's just so magnificently run.
Would Guardiola have come to you though if you hadn't have had the financial resources and the ability to cheat in those early years? That's the question, isn't it? No, but it's the question, isn't it? Because Guardiola doesn't come to Man City, does he? In a normal.
You're probably right, Gary. He doesn't, but he has, and that's
that's the flip, isn't it? Because it's all right saying, "Oh, Guardiola's an unbelievable manager and created that," and that is all true. So that half of it and what he's created and what he's won is true. But the turning point of that is, would Guardiola have come? And if Guardiola doesn't come, you would have probably won. Like, what did you win before Guardiola? 2 in 4 years or something, 2 in 5 years. So you'd have probably won maybe 3 titles and a few cups, but you wouldn't have won 6 and 7 in a Champions League without Guardiola, would you? So that's the
you wouldn't have been
point,
this
isn't
dominant.
it? Does Guardiola come without that financial backing and without that platform that looks like it was built on, payments to Mancini and things like that from shell companies and all that? And that's the thing. It doesn't take away from what Guardiola and that set of players has done, but it does beg the question. And I don't think Guardiola comes, does he? Because he's shown in his career that he's only going to go to, the top elite sides that are already established. He's not going to come and take City from being an also-ran to. So that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
There's also the point that obviously in the early years, like paying Mancini via like a third-party company. Is it? I was going to say, is it that bad? Do you know what I mean? I think people are making out that we've had like wide scale overspending, that we've massively outspent our limits.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into too much detail of it because
No, I think it's. I don't know if it is that bad, but it all boils down to is that nobody else has done it, have they? So that's where the achievement bit comes in, doesn't it? Because no other team that we know of, no other team has done that. So if everyone could have done that, would City win 4 in a row? Now we could probably say, well, they had Guardiola, so they probably would have done. But I think it all centered around, would Guardiola have come without that base level of the early years? And we'll never know, will we?
The question I would ask, and I think I know the answer to this, is let's say, like at CAS, we were cleared of all the allegations.
Well, you weren't cleared of all of them, were you?
Yeah, we were. It's a common misconception that people think it was time barred. They did investigate it and they found no evidence there as well. They just happened to be time barred as well. But if we were cleared by the Premier League, would you give us credit? Or because my thoughts is that we've been tarnished so much by these investigations that no one will ever accept it now, even if we are cleared by 2 different independent.
I think bitter people will, Johnny. If you get cleared, you get cleared, and people will always have a whinge about it. It's not helped that it's not like, oh, there's an investigation into City, and a month later you got cleared. People have been aware for what are we now, 3-4 years.
Yeah.
So it's something that's kind of hung with you for this whole period of basically these 4 current run of Premier League titles.
And I think
go on, Johnny.
And I think that's what's made us City fans sort of just a little bit us against the world, resistant to it all, as in like we've been through those experiences regardless of what everyone else thinks. That's all that matters really at the end of the day. I was in Istanbul. Yeah. I was at Wembley. I've been on the pitch when we won the league. Regardless of what happens, I've still experienced that with my family and friends. And that's City fans think is what matters most.
Yeah, I'm really uncomfortable with the idea of stripping titles.
That'd be stupid now.
I'm really uncomfortable with that because just purely if you think of the Aguero moment, and presumably that's one of the ones that would get stripped, wouldn't it, Johnny? The 2012. And what you're going to say, oh, actually, Manchester United were champions in 2012 and that Aguero moment didn't exist. Well, you're never going to take away what that moment felt like 14 years ago for the fans of both football clubs. It's never going to change. Like United are going to, open top bus, we won the title. Actually, when Aguero scored the winner, you're not. So I really don't like this idea of processing and backwards.
I think whatever the rights and wrongs end up being, I don't think the Premier League will want to do that to themselves either, because I know that some of the charges are about City delaying it, so the Premier League might say, well, we tried to do this early, but City have delayed it. But even aside from that, the Premier League now aren't going to put their brand and their history and their marketing rights, because every advert, when the season starts in 2 months, all the adverts will be, that Aguero goal will be on the adverts for Sky, won't it? And a Haaland goal. But all of that history and all of that nostalgia, they can't just wipe that away now, like you say, 10, 12 years down the line and say, oh, actually, Liverpool won in 2014 and Chelsea, they can't do that now, can they? And I don't think they'll want to do it to themselves. So I suspect we'll end up with some sort of fudge and everyone will say, yeah, everyone will admit a bit of fault and it'll be, maybe another fine and move on, because what Premier League can't just wipe away 8 of the last 10 titles, can they? Because it'll just ruin the brand, won't it, as well?
Pep pretty much said, Johnny, that if you were found guilty, you'd walk out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we get a decision in January and you're found guilty, does you just walk out in the middle of the next season?
Don't know.
Interesting. I think it's important as well to give the City perspective on it, John, because everybody, quite rightly, I can imagine from your perspective, you don't feel like you are getting the credit. Yeah, I think it's unfortunate for people like me in my position that feel like, yeah, we want to give praise for what the football team has achieved, but we also have to acknowledge it.
Yeah,
because if we don't, we're not telling the full picture. And there is obviously a historical of, as Gary has said, the groundwork was potentially there, spent in a mistrustworthy way, basically. You mentioned the Mancini wire payments and stuff. If that's all true, City lied about it, right? So lying is is a pretty big deal. But I would take up point, Gary, that if it wasn't City, he probably would have managed your club, mate.
Who, Guardiola?
Yeah. What would it have been?
Yeah, quite possibly.
You, Liverpool or Arsenal, I suppose.
Well, this is the other thing from my point of view about all of these alleged offences, is that financial fair play, even at the start of it, was, I always found it a bit of a stupid idea. Anyway, this idea that you would limit, so only certain clubs could spend a load of money, and obviously I know we've got to try and protect the game against state-run football and things like that. But if City hadn't have spent all this money, and if Chelsea hadn't have spent all that money, and we can, both probably from dubious sources, shall we say, but the Premier League would have just been United and Arsenal still, wouldn't it? And so it is a difficult one. So yeah, it's quite nuanced, isn't it? And it's a lot more grey areas than people acknowledge it in terms of saying, oh yeah, City have cheated, because in a way it's kind of good that them and Chelsea maybe did, in a way, because otherwise the league would have been quite boring. And I think it's sad that, look at a team like Brighton, say, last season, who got themselves to 6th with a great manager and a great set of players. They've got a billionaire owner, Brighton, but because of FFP and PSR, they have to sell, £200 million to footballers and slide back down to 11th. When if that was 30 years ago, we'd have said, Tony Bloom might have said, put his hand in his pocket and turned Brighton into the third best team in the country. And then this season, they might have been title contenders. But now we go, well, thanks for everything, Brighton, but sell Caicedo for 100, sell McAllister, sell whoever, and get back down to 11th, and we'll let the big boys at it again. It's a shame, really. And I'm not saying that's the reason that City can cheat, if they have cheated, but it is a shame that is a consequence, isn't it? That you just turn the game into a league where only 2 or 3 teams really are going to do anything in it.
I think the best case scenario, Johnny, for City here is that you probably get found not guilty of all the charges, bar lack of cooperation with the Premier League, because I think that's pretty proven that you withheld information at certain points. And I think around about a quarter of the charges actually amount up to that failure to cooperate on when documents were released and stuff like that. That's probably the best case you get done on something like that. But I must repeat what I've said several times over on the podcast. Can we please stop comparing with Everton and Nottingham Forest? This is a 40,000 document piece, and Everton and Forest won't be like 1% of that. That's why this is taking so long. Let's lighten the mood anyway, mate. Gary, your manager.
Oh, yeah.
Is he's still going to be here this week or not? This time next week?
No. I think he'll be sacked. Tomorrow, no matter what. Literally
tomorrow, like straight after the game, before Johnny's back down Wembley Way celebrating, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we might see what happened to Mancini again in the Wigan final, and I think what happened to Van Gaal when we beat Palace. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing leaks tomorrow afternoon, that Ten Hag's gone either way, and then no matter what happens at 5 o'clock tomorrow, it'll be thanks for everything and Benito, and off you go.
It's been an interesting week because it's almost felt like over the last couple of weeks, I was pretty convinced that he's definitely going. And then over the last few weeks, a few things changed, like they let him get on the mic after the Newcastle game, and there seemed to be players coming out supporting him for staying on, ex-players I'm talking about here. And I don't know, the whole vibe seemed to change a little bit. It seemed like there was leaks in the media that they weren't sure whether he was going to stay or not. And then this week, the situation seems to have changed quite strangely, I think, considering you've won your last 2 games and the confidence level is at least up a little bit from winning a few football matches. That suddenly, Pochettino gets sacked, he's being linked, Kieran McKenna's being linked, other people being linked. And it just felt like 2 weeks ago it had all gone quiet again. And now you're on the verge of the biggest game of the season. And now it's like it's back in the media again. And it almost feels like it's a preparing people here now, I think.
Yeah, I wonder if it was that sort of, like you say, 2-3 weeks ago, it seems the noises coming out with it, because United didn't have this the boardroom level thing all sorted because of all those wranglings, that they wanted all that team to be together, and then they would make a decision on who the next manager would be. And then there was all that talk of, well, there isn't really a natural, obvious replacement because of a lack of choices out there. And maybe that's what's changed it, that this week, all of a sudden, it sounds like that McKenna might be open to leaving Ipswich. Pochettino's left, obviously. Tuchel's now definitely out of a job. And maybe now it's that they've gone, there's two people out of a job who've managed big clubs before, plus McKenna, who's been at United before, and seems like there could be a deal done there now, because he's been linked with Chelsea as well. So maybe none of that was there 2 weeks ago, because Pochettino didn't look like he was leaving, did he? And I assume most people thought McKenna would at least want to start the season with Ipswich, having got him up, but sounds like he can be got out of there. So maybe that's what's changed it, that now there's three obvious options out there. Oh, sorry, and De Zerbi. You've got De Zerbi as a shot. So now you've got four obvious options out there that 2 weeks ago probably didn't look like they were there.
It's moved so quickly this week, because I recorded with Paul, our new Ipswich correspondent, on Monday, and we were talking about the Brighton speculation and being concerned that he might go there. And we'd even said on that, Brighton's a great step before you go to Chelsea or Manchester United as like examples. And now they're getting involved in the conversation as well. That would be a giant leap, wouldn't it, Gary, to go from Ipswich to Manchester United? And I realise he has worked at the club before.
He's worked at the club before, but that was in the Solskjaer era, which was good parts and bad parts. So, but look, I can't profess to have watched a lot of Ipswich this season, but no matter how good a job he's done to get them up, and it is an astonishing job to get them promoted ahead of Leeds and Southampton and West Brom and some of the other big clubs in that division, but to go from that to, even if he goes to Brighton, I think that's a hell of a leap. So it's the idea that you could go to a Chelsea who'll be in European football, or a Man United who are in need of a massive rebuild, and you don't know which of the players you want, and you don't know how much money you can spend. Look, fair play to him if he takes it. That's the thing probably, and that'll be what's worrying Ipswich fans, is if a Chelsea come in, or a United come in, he can't turn it down.
He goes, doesn't he?
Well, he does, because
he can't say no. He's got to take it.
No, because in 6 months' time, Ipswich might be bottom of the league, and Ipswich thinks, you know what, we don't want you anyway. We're going to get, someone else.
On that podcast on Monday, I also referenced why I thought McKenna would probably go, is because when you look at an example like Vincent Kompany, after the season he's had, no big club's now going to offer him a job, are they, Johnny? What did you make of club legend Vincent Kompany now seemingly going to Bayern Munich?
I was going to say, it's a jump for McKenna, but not quite as big as Burnley to Bayern Munich, is it? How do you fancy that? Like getting relegated and then getting the Bayern Munich job? Yeah, I've seen him take a bit of stick, actually, because obviously I think a lot of criticism he had was that he wasn't changing his ways in the league. Maybe he didn't become more pragmatic because he was focused on sort of like brand Kompany and his way of playing, which Bayern Munich have maybe been attracted to. But no, dead pleased for him. Just excited to see how he goes on.
I suppose if he does well and Guardiola was to stay another 2-3 years, he'll presumably he's at that level, he would walk into your job easier.
Yeah,
knowing that he's and obviously Guardiola was at Bayern before you as well.
That's best case scenario, is that he proves himself at Bayern and then comes to City.
Do you feel like everyone's trying to copy you? Like, Enzo Maresca's been linked with Chelsea as well, who's obviously the assistant at Guardiola before. Arteta's at Arsenal. Does it feel like everyone's just trying to be City or follow at least the Guardiola template?
Feels like that a little bit, but then saying that, everyone thinks we're boring, so I don't know why they'd bother.
I don't think 4 consecutive league titles is particularly boring, mate. Dominant might be part of the boring. Gary, what if you win tomorrow? What if you win, you play well, deserve it, and then we're definitely sticking with Ten Hag going into next season? Because if you win really well tomorrow against the neighbours, it's going to be a bit weird, isn't it? Imagine you win 3-0 on Saturday, just hypothetically, right? You well beat. You can laugh. All right, but May might have a player sent off early or something, right? You go and win 3-0, and then the manager gets sacked the next day. This story can flip, right?
Well, maybe, but I think we should let Ten Hag go, because we've seen, especially this season, that long term he isn't going to be for us. He's not going to get us to where we need to be. And even if we thrash City tomorrow 4-0 somehow, you know, I just can't see if that happened. You're saying he would play well, but I can't think the last time we won a match and played well from start to finish anyway. Most of our wins, even our big wins this season, have been in, you know, mad games and a bit of luck in it and opposition missing chances. What you're saying is just not going to happen, is it? We might win tomorrow, but if we win tomorrow, it'll be because City have an off day, or some of our forward players, you know, everything that goes in, and we, you know, Onana has a blinder, and we somehow get through, like the Liverpool 4-3 in the quarter final, or, you know, it'll be that kind of match. We won't win tomorrow because we start passing the ball well and hold City off and play them off the park and win 3-0. So I can't even answer your question, because I'm not saying we won't win tomorrow, but we won't win. We won't win playing well and being the dominant side and deserving it.
You win because you create carnage. I think it's
we'll win because it's carnage, and City have an off day, and I don't know, and Roger gets booked early on and can't stem the flow of attacks through the middle, and it just becomes a basketball game. But when does City get involved in basketball games now? I mean, Johnny's just joked that they're boring, but I mean, they are a different side now to, say, when you had Sané and a Mahrez. They are a lot more. It's not boring, but it's a bit more control. I mean, they've always been controlled with Guardiola, but it's a lot more functional, isn't it, than it was with a Mahrez in, or a Sané in, I think. And I can't see City in a big final getting involved in like Liverpool let themselves get drawn into that 4-3 in the quarter final, didn't they? They just, I don't know why. I mean, Liverpool are that kind of team anyway, aren't they? Under Klopp, they were a bit more liable to have those kind of matches than City, but City aren't going to get involved in that. And as long as City play half well, they will win, and it'll just be, do they scrape through, you know, or do they absolutely wipe the floor with us? So United aren't going to win playing well tomorrow. They might win, but
are you worried, Gary, about getting beat really badly?
I'm not worried about it, because I've seen it. You know, I only say we've been slaughtered so many times in the last 3 or 4 years in big matches that, you know, once you've lost 7-0 to Liverpool, anything else is so what? Do you know what I mean? What can it be tomorrow? As long as we don't beat that Watford record. Was it 6-0 you beat Watford the other year, Johnny? So as long as we don't beat that record, I think we'll take it.
You've just highlighted again we lost 7, so don't rule it out.
Yeah. Get past the 12th second and don't concede 6, and we'll take it, I think.
Johnny, what's the City view on Ten Hag? What do City fans say about him?
They want him to stay forever.
Don't repeat the real songs and stuff like that, if there are any.
I'm backing him, me. Stay for as long as possible.
I mean, that sums it up, doesn't it? It got to that point from a Tottenham perspective. Like, Wenger was obviously incredible for Arsenal for 20 years, but it got to the point where they began to regress quite badly and the game was moving on. It was like, yeah, you want him to stay. And you would, wouldn't you, Johnny? That I've said that several times on the pod. I'm looking at United as a competitor for me at the moment, which, with respect, you are more in competition with my club at the moment than City, Gary. But I know it just takes a switch and United will be really good again. I'm looking at it from the outside going, yeah, let him stay.
I thought that when he first got appointed, I thought he was a very good manager. To the point where I actually said, from what he's achieved at Ajax and his style of football, I wouldn't have minded him at City. And I think he did get United to a really good point when they won the League Cup. But then it's just been downhill from there. And there are a couple of caveats in that I think he has had a lot of players out injured. There are a few coming back for the cup final, which maybe we can discuss in a minute. I think he's atrocious in the transfer market. So I think with them two caveats, if you were to take that away from him and basically say, listen, you just coach the team and give him some decent players, he might be capable of doing something. But there's just been so much wrong at United. For a team, considering he's been in charge 2 years, they just look absolutely clueless. And I don't think it gives him a leg to stand on anymore.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think mitigating, you've mentioned one there is the injuries, and for whatever reason, Gary, we don't speak about your club as much. I don't know if that's because of the size of the club. I also feel he really wants to play 4-1-4-1. If you think of how City lined up on Sunday with Rodri and then two real tens and two high and wide players, he's never had the personnel to do it because Casemiro come in and clearly can't maneuver around the pitch anymore.
Mm.
Mainu's not ready to play that single pivot role. And also at centre back, you have been done over really badly, in fairness, this year, mate. So there
No,
are
I
some
mean,
mitigating. Why is it
yeah.
not okay to look at it and go, right, for long periods you've been about Martinez, Varane, you've had Lindelof injured, Maguire's injured now. Even like Cambuala came in and been injured. Evans has had injuries. 6 centre backs there, mate. Most fans couldn't name 6 centre backs at their own club, I don't think.
No, I think that is a caveat, but I suppose the thing is that the two things are that even when he has had those players fit, we've not looked good. So, we've sort of scraped through matches and seasons. Even if you think back to the start of this season when we didn't have any injuries, look at that Wolves game on the opening night. We were absolutely atrocious. The Wolves were all over us. Then we went to Spurs the week after. The first half we were all right. Second half, you beat us comfortably. Then we went 2-0 down to Notts Forest after about 3 minutes and managed to scramble that one back. Then Arsenal absolutely slaughtered us. And this is it, is that.
That's harsh,
And
that.
the
You
other
scored a
thing,
goal that would have put you in front that was narrowly offside, Gary.
it was offside, wasn't it? So that's that VAR and the offside law has
Yeah,
completely
fuck
changed. So
VAR.
yeah. Well, I think
Me
the
and
other
Jonny
thing
could have
is
told you
that
that in 2019.
yeah. But I think the other thing is that the injuries is fine, but we have a couple of injuries, and it completely changes the style. No other top team works like that. If City have some injuries, fair enough, they might be worse off if Haaland can't play and Alvarez has to play, or Kovacic has to come in for Rodri, say, and they're obviously a lot worse when Rodri doesn't play. But the style of the system doesn't really change, does it? What City want to do doesn't change just because someone gets injured. We have injuries, and it's the whole system changes. Fernandez plays somewhere else. Rashford plays somewhere else. The system there's not a foundation to build on that they can all rely on just because someone's injured. And I think the best teams and the best managers have got that. And I think that's what I'll do for Ten Hag eventually, is that he's not managed, and maybe some of it is the transfer dealings, and like you say, not being able to get De Jong and been, getting Casemiro and things like that. But he's got to take some of the blame as well. And, it's the easiest thing in the world, isn't it? No matter what's going on at transfer market or with the players, the easiest thing is just to get rid of the manager, isn't it? And see if you can refresh it by just sacking one player, one person rather than all the players.
Okay. A little bit on tomorrow's game tactically then. Jonny, it feels like selection for you probably boils down to, does Kovacic start, yes or no?
Yeah, I think so. I think a few City fans were surprised to see him on the bench against West Ham, but we knew they were going to sit deep. So Doku got brought in and proved his worth, to be honest. But I think he might revert back to type. Pep usually talks up United's counter-attacking threat, so he'll want to sort of have that protection and maybe then bring Doku off the bench later.
So it's probably Foden back to left, Vardy up the touchline, bring him in, Kovacic sitting deeper with Rodri, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Centre backs?
Probably Diaz and Akanji.
Okay. Not Nathan Ake. Seems like just unlucky got an injury and ain't seen the pitch again.
Yeah, well, all the centre backs have just played so well. I mean, Stones can't even get in. If you'd told me that Stones can't get in, I'd been like, well, what's happening? But I mean, Akanji's been so good, apart from his mistake against Spurs. And
It's quite
Diaz,
ironic that with John Stones, because we were all thinking England have got no chance if John Stones isn't available in the summer.
Yeah, maybe that's what Pep's doing, keeping him wrapped in cat.
Keeping him fresh for Southgate.
I'd like to thank Pep. Is that what Ten Hag's doing with Maguire as well? Cut and wool, get him right for England, yeah.
Well, hopefully, I'd rather him play for England than for United. So yeah.
Has Harry Maguire not been one of your better players this season? Him and Scott McTominay, your two favourites.
No, they haven't. People think they have because because Maguire's improved from his rock bottom of a few years ago. But he's this. If Maguire and McTominay had been that good, we finished 8th in the league. So that shows, and they played nearly every week. So that
who's
shows
been United's player of the year?
Oh, fucking hell. Probably Garnacho or maybe Dalot, but I think we've conceded too many goals to give it to
not Fernandes, no?
Maybe Fernandes. I think Fernandes hasn't been helped because I don't think he started the season that well, and he's just been shunted around the position list so much to accommodate. You know, if McTominay plays, you've got to play McTominay. He's got to play higher than Fernandes, and doesn't really suit Fernandes. And so Fernandes has been good certainly this running, and during the cup run he's done really well. But I don't know if he's been player of the season material.
Do you think Fernandes will play this 9 role tomorrow?
I don't know. I think that's the big question: is do we try and pack the midfield and try and get Amrabat, Menu, McTominay, and Fernandes all in the team and try and keep it solid, or do we try and exploit this the counter attack? And do you drop a midfielder and try and get Garnacho, Fernandes, and Højlund all in the team as well? I think that's the big question. I think I'd prefer to try and play on the counter attack because I think if we try and pack the midfield and keep it solid, it's not going to work anyway. We might just be limiting the damage, and we might only lose, 1s and 2s. Whereas if we try and went for it and tried like Solskjaer would do, we might be able to, especially on that Wembley pitch is quite a big pitch, isn't it? We might be able to exploit them and get something on the counter attack, and I think that's the only way we can win it tomorrow.
Presumably, he's going to risk Martinez and Varane.
I mean, be a big call that to risk both of them. But what else
next
can
week
do?
doesn't matter, does it?
No, I know it doesn't, but I don't know. I mean, if they're both only half fit, it's a big call. But so maybe only play one and try and get Johnny Evans in there. I don't know, but I mean, if Varane and Martinez both start, you'd feel good at the start seeing them in there, but you would have to be worried about just how fit both of them were.
And Brand's leaving the club as well, so he's gonna be desperate to play, isn't
he? Yeah, I mean, I hope he does play. I think it's a shame he's leaving, really. But yeah, if we can get them on the pitch and they're both fit enough to get through it, then great. But you've got to have serious doubts about that, given how much football they've played recently, or how little football they've played.
Do you expect Diallo to start or not?
Well, it comes down to if we try and pack this midfield or whatever. I would hope he does. I would hope we go for it, and maybe Diallo, Garnacho, and then one of Højlund or Rashford maybe, and try and cause them a problem on the counter attack. But I've a suspicion he might try and pack that midfield and have some split strikers, and yeah, I don't know.
Back to old Ollie Bowl. What was your thoughts on Rashford's England omission?
I don't think anyone can be that surprised by it. We've got so many good attacking players, and his form's been pretty poor this season. I would have taken him. I think not taking him, as good as that a lot of attacking players are, there's not a lot of genuine pace in that set of players. Is there? Gordon's got genuine pace. I'm not sure how much pace the rest of them have got really. And Rashford scored a lot of goals for England, which not a lot of them players that we've picked have. And in a 26-man squad, I would have probably found room for him, I think. But I'm not that surprised or bothered that he's not gone, because I think Gordon's had a great season. I'd love to see Palmer try and get Palmer in the team. We all want Saka in the team. We all want Bellingham in the team. We all want Foden in the team. There's too many players. I mean, you maybe argue that Grealish is lucky to be there, and Rashford's a different profile to Grealish, but you're arguing about substitutes really, and it's not worth worrying about, is it? But yeah, it's probably not. I don't know how Rashford will take it though. Whether he doesn't strike me as the kind of person who reacts to adversity and a bollocking, he strikes me the kind of person who needs an arm around him.
Yeah.
So whether I don't know how he'll respond to that, and maybe we won't know that until the middle of next season. So yeah.
Well,
But
I hope
yeah,
he does
a
rediscover
bit
the
of a
form
surprise.
that he'd had, because it's unthinkable to go back 12 years ago. And if you'd have told someone 12 months ago Marcus Rashford would get left out of a 33-man preliminary squad and he's fit, people just would never have believed that as a possibility, I don't think, mate.
No, but I think a lot of people keep saying, "Oh, I wonder what's something going on with Rashford." But I just wonder if you have to come to the acceptance that this is what Rashford is. He's just an inconsistent player, and that he's liable to have a 30-goal season. And he used to have a 7-goal season, because he's pretty much been hit and miss all of his career, hasn't he? He's either been really good or
cold,
pretty poor. There's not been
in between.
not really found what his middle ground is.
Johnny, was Grealish lucky to get in there just briefly?
Yeah, probably. I mean, if you're going with the same logic as Rashford, he's not had his best season, hasn't played a lot of minutes. So yeah, I think he is.
Phil Foden just about deserved a call up.
Yeah, just about.
Is he your player of the year?
Yeah.
Not Rodri.
Him or Rodri, but I think Foden. He's stepped up. He's now just absolute stalwart of the team. The 90-minute man, taking games by the scruff of the neck. He seems ready to sort of like pick up the mantle from De Bruyne. He's just gone clutch in so many games now. I think Southgate has to build the team around him. I think Bellingham's got good PR at Madrid. I'll die on the hill that Foden's better than Bellingham. I think he has to build a team around him, but knowing Southgate, will probably shove him at left back or something.
Where would you?
Yeah, any chance of Luke Shaw being fit, Gary? So that doesn't happen.
Well, this is what we need, isn't it? We need a left back, because then you can nominally start with Foden wide left of the front three and say you can go and drift in with Bellingham, because I agree with you, Johnny, but you can't leave Bellingham out. So the only thing you could do then is play Bellingham deeper, and we probably don't want to do that, do we? So
yeah,
we need Luke Shaw.
He just has to find the right profiles for all the players, where one of them isn't just totally sort of stifled, like you say, if it is Bellingham deep, because you're right, Bellingham's better in the 10, but Foden is as well.
Yeah,
so
I know.
I suppose Foden might be more effective in the position you just said than Bellingham would be from deep. So
I will,
as long as he gets them.
I will end this podcast again by floating the Bukayo Saka at left back idea and quickly move on before Arsenal fans come for me. Let's do predictions before we finish. Go on, Gary.
Oh, am I going first, am I? I will say 4-1 City.
Confident? Okay. Do you think you get one?
Yeah, I think we'll score. Yeah, I hope we score when it's either 0-0 or 1-0 down, so that the goal means something. I know it's not consolation. We've got something to look forward to.
There is no way Johnny's going to predict that they score that high.
Just concentrate on getting to 13 seconds this year, Gary.
No, yeah.
Might be helpful. Listen, if you don't make it as long as how the Saturday night should end, you're in real trouble on a Saturday afternoon, aren't you, mate? Go on, Johnny, predict it.
Yeah.
Mate.
I was going to say like 2-1 or 3-1. Cup finals are never sort of like
6-0.
Yeah, well,
no, because you've never won a cup final 6-0, have you? As mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it got nervy this year. I'll say 3-1. I'll be optimistic.
Good stuff. I wish you both the very, very best of luck. Thank you. Thank you to all the correspondents for your contributions throughout the season. Always a pleasure. The guys will be back for Correspondent Week. And with all these managerial changes, you might hear from a few of them a little bit sooner than planned as well. I'm due a week off. I'm going to take it. I'll be back on June the 3rd. Enjoy the brief hiatus. Thank you very much, Gary and Johnny. Cue music, please, man child.